Hello, welcome to another lesson with Rivera Fine Art Studios. I tried to post a video yesterday after my live presentation, but unfortunately I lost it, which was the beginning stages of this drawing. So I'm doing another video today, and I'm going to push this a little bit further. And once again, I will try to post it onto YouTube, and hopefully I won't have any other issues. But I just wanted to talk about the materials that I'll be using, and also what I've done so far. So what you see here is a paper. This is hot press watercolor paper that has been toned with a transparent acrylic ink. So I used raw sienna as the color, and I diluted that with water. The Liquitex acrylic ink is sold in little bottles like this. And again, you can mix this with water so you can change the value. You can make it more diluted or more concentrated depending on what you're looking for. And then I proceeded to work on the drawing just using a 6B pencil. So what you see here, all of these tones, pretty much everything that you see has been done with the 6B pencil. I then went ahead and blended some of those tones with a Q-tip. So you can use shaders, Q-tips. Sometimes I like to use like a stiff bristled brush as well. So there's lots of tools that you can use to blend. And that just gives me really nice, smooth gradations of value tone. So this is in the theme of Halloween. This is a scary face that I'm drawing completely from imagination. And it's a little bit different for my channel. A lot of the videos that I have are traditional techniques where I discuss things like the structure of the face, how to lay out the planes and so on. So I figured I would take some of that information and apply it to something done entirely from imagination. So, one of the tricky things with a drawing like this is we have to invent our light source. So we really have to understand the planes. Today, what I'm going to do is add some additional mediums. So I'm going to start working some additional values, but I'm not just going to be thinking about value. Now I'm going to be thinking about a little bit of warm and cool. So I'm actually going to use the ink today, the acrylic ink, okay, and this is transparent burnt sienna. Hopefully you can see it. And I'm going to use this in its pure form. I'm going to just start off by hatching in some warm tones here and there to add some warmth to the drawing with a brush. So I'm going to use a very small brush. Let me just grab that. Okay, so I have this 20-0 brush, and this is really great for details. So I'm going to do some contour shading with this brush and the acrylic ink. Okay, and I'm not diluting it this time. I'm just going in, and I'm just going to be using it in its full concentration. But what's nice here is we can start to add some really interesting creases and textures. And I can apply this right over the pencil. Glides right over top of that very nicely. Okay, and I can just really start to map out some additional details. Now, I love combining different mediums. This is something that you see on my channel quite a bit. I talk about, different ways to combine things like ink, wet mediums, dry mediums, and, again, this just gives us a really interesting sense of texture. So I think of this old wrinkled face. I'm thinking of lots of little creases. I'm sort of letting my brush move around some of these forms. Okay, and thinking of something like the cheekbone, for example, we have a form that curves out. And then when we come around that form, as we start moving into the hollow part of the cheek, that shadow is going to get a little bit deeper. So I'm going to just kind of dip my brush back into the ink, and I can start to, lay in some more concentrated strokes of this burnt sienna. All right, so this is just, again, this is very much how I would, shade a drawing if I was using just line. But what's nice here is I'm using line over the smooth tones that I've already applied. And you can just see how that gives it a richer tonality. It gives it that little bit of that warmth. And it gives it more depth, essentially, because we're creating warm and cool, which gives us more options for depth. If you think about it, when we're just working with value, we're limited to light or dark. But now we can start to think about what portions of this drawing do I want to be warm and what portions do I want to be a little bit cooler. And again, this goes back to our light source. If we think about the color of the light, that can have a really, really big impact on the, the temperature of the lights, and then the shadows will contrast against that. Okay, so just a lot of fun to sort of play with these different mediums. The old masters would have used ink quite a bit. I think of artists like Albrecht Dürer, a wonderful linear artist. His use of line and hatching and cross contour is exquisite. So a lot of my my studies have been artists of the past. I look at a lot of the old masters, and there's just so much to be learned from them. Just come in here and start to hatch in the shadow of the eye socket. This is a very, very deep shadow. Almost like a hollow space that we have right here. And the other thing the brush does is it can help to sort of redefine really important contours. So there was a downturning of the eyebrow here, which is a very pronounced angle. So I just want to load the brush up again and make sure I'm applying the ink a little bit more opaquely right here. You can see I have tremendous control over how much ink I want to put down. It can be very heavy, very opaque, or it can be more transparent. I'm going to start adding a few random hairs coming off of this eyebrow. It's mixing a little bit with the graphite here and there. I can feel it's kind of starting to dirty up the ink a little bit, but that's okay because that gives me another tone, which I'm fine with. So it's not limited exclusively to one medium or another, but there's actually ways to combine these mediums as well. Okay, I'm going to just come into the nose here, and I'm going to just kind of put some hatched lines through here. This is all part of my shadow through here. So I'll kind of go in one direction to establish the base tone. Pull in a little closer for you. And then I'm going to start thinking more about the contours within that shadow. Okay, so for example, something like this crease under the eye, I can emphasize that with lines moving in this direction. I can also think about things like the tear duct of the eye. I can think about the contour of the nose. We have a downward plane right here. So all of this stuff adds to the drawing. Something else that I'm gonna do is add some lights. So I'm gonna use my acrylic paint. I'm using just white paint, and I'm going to start to find places where I can put lighter lights in the drawing. So things like the highlights of the eyes, for example, that's a great place to do it. Also the highlight on the nose, let me start with that. Gonna use the same brush here and something like that. I can also hatch in, I can create a little bit of texture here as I do this. See how that just looks a bit brighter? Actually, I'm going to switch to another brush. This is a little bit too small for some of these highlights. So just grab something a little bit bigger. And I'm going to start adding some lights into the creases here. If you're interested more in techniques like this, I do offer a whole bunch of classes on specifically on portrait drawing. That is one of my specialties, and you can find those on my website, which is riverafineartstudio.com. I have in-person classes there, and I also have pre-recorded classes, which you can find on my online school, which is riverafineartstudios.thinkific.com. If there's anything that you would like to learn more about, please let me know, because I always want to offer content that's going to be interesting to you guys. And if you have any comments about this technique or techniques like this, please feel free to add them into the comments section. You can also type them into the live chat. But, you know, one thing that I'm thinking about now is this side of the face. I just want to build the lights up a little bit more on this side of the face. I want to show the difference between the light side and the shadow side. So I'm just going to take my brush. I'm just going to really fill in where I imagine the light would be hitting. Imagine we'd have some light there, right along the side of the eyeball down here. I would have some light, and I can also control how light I go with how much I dilute the paint as well. So if I want a really strong highlight, I can apply that very opaquely, or I can thin it out. What I love about the acrylic paint is I can really start building up texture, so I can make the lights very opaque, and I can add physical texture to my drawing. I imagine we have more of a highlight on this cheekbone as well. All right, so you can see it's a lot of fun to just build these textures up. I won't go too heavy because I am painting on paper, so I'm not going to cake it on where it's like an inch off of the paper. I have to thin it out a little bit, and you know, so I'll kind of apply it and then spread it out as I go. This is just another way to add more realistic texture to this drawing. All right, so hopefully this gives you a good idea of how to, you know, go about something like this. What's really great about this is I can also do this the way I've been doing as an underdrawing, and then I can add color over this. So that's another option. You know, we have this very, very strong sense of values. We're starting to think a little bit about warm and cool, but you know, if I wanted to spray this with a workable fixative, I could do that, and then I could actually add color using pastel or some other type of medium. I like to use ink tempera a lot. You could also use colored pencil. So there's so many options here. And I'm going to wrap this video up in a little while, but if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm going to add a few more little bumps and kind of rough textured skin in some of these lighter areas. I could also go back to the pencil and add more tonal work with the pencil as well. Just see how this could go on for a while. This just takes a little bit of time, but it's really fun to mix the mediums like this. All right, so I'm gonna end the video here, but I will probably post another video on this once I've developed it a little bit further. And once again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. You can just type those in the chat. You can also look into my my online classes by visiting the two sites that I will have posted in the description. All right, so also make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and I hope to see you in another video. Take care.